Thanks for checking out this video. So this is the 1988 installment of the 1980s Horror Superlatives video that I'm doing in collaboration with your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. So you all know the drill at this point. Watch this video, hear my picks and my justifications, then go over to your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete's video, or his channel, and watch his video, and I have a link to his channel in my description. Watch his video, then come back to my channel, go to the community tab, and vote on whose picks you like the most, you think were the best, or just they had the best justifications. You know, whatever you think in that instance. It's just for fun. We're just having a good time, and obviously a lot of you are having a good time because you're putting a lot of comments down there about what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and what your personal picks are, which we love reading those comments. So keep them coming. We're just glad that people are engaging with this and just having fun, because that's what this is about. It's about having fun. So that said, let's go ahead and get into my picks for 1988. First up, Most Amazing. Now, this film is one that I own, and I met one of the stars of it, and lovely woman, Shawnee Smith. And this actually comes up in the conversation of, are there any good horror remakes? Yes, there are. The Blob is one of them from 1988. This film is awesome. By the way, this is an awesome cover. Love the Scream Factory Blu-ray that I have for it. Acting is great. A little bit on the cheesy side, but really, really good. It's a really awesome update from the original The Blob with Steve McQueen, which also is a wonderful, wonderful film, especially for being as old as it is and how it's held up. This is a great kind of updating of that. One of the best things about the updating is how they go for the kills in this and how they constructed the Blob itself. I forget the specific... I did a review of this on my channel. I talk about like the specific chemical that was used to make the actual Blob material. So it makes it look like very slimy, and they do such a good job with the kills of it, of showing people basically being disintegrated by it. Like, you can literally see the disgusting sliminess of the Blob, but you can see through it to see a person disintegrating under it. And it's very disturbing. It's very well done. And the film is just really well put together. They also did a really good job of making it feel even bigger than the original, not just like budget-wise, but as far as how far the Blob goes and how impending it is and how, you know, dangerous it actually is, because it basically takes over an entire town to a degree. So this is just, it's really well done. The pacing is amazing with this. I love the guy who gets the Blob on his hand initially. It looks so disgusting, and you just know what you're in for when that starts. Kevin Dillon, I believe it's Kevin Dillon. I always get him confused with his brother. Kevin Dillon in this did an excellent job as kind of like the badass that who you think you're not even really going to like in the beginning, and then he ends up being a hero. So it's that great kind of turn of like the bad guy becomes kind of a good guy in the end, and then gets the girl in Shawnee Smith's character. So awesome, awesome, awesome film. That is why The Blob is my pick for Most Amazing Film. And I know that that's probably not what Uncle Pete is going to pick, but I do think The Blob will probably show up on his list, maybe under Best Gore, because I do think, I do remember having talked to him about the effects in there and how he thinks it's so well done. So I could see him picking it for Gore. So next comes up my pick for Best So Bad It's Good Film. Now, some people may not understand me why I'm saying it's Best So Bad It's Good, but it is a great film that a lot of people enjoy, and that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Yes, I still just have a DVD of it. Love this film. It is a lot of fun. The practical effects are unbelievably awesome looking. The Kyoto brothers did a phenomenal job with this. I say it's Best So Bad It's Good because the story is not great. Let's be honest. The dialogue's not that great. The acting's not that great. The story's not that great. It's very simplistic. But it's unbelievably fun because of the gags that they put in it and because of how good and menacing the actual clowns in it look. This movie is sold on the clowns. It is sold on the clowns, and it's sold on the things like the popcorn gun. It's sold on the things like the bodies encased in cotton candy, like those things. And then the cool scenes like the, what are you going to do, knock my block off? And the clown literally punches the guy's head right off. Or one of my favorites, the shadow puppet dinosaur thing that actually eats people. There's so much fun to be had with this film, but I think we can probably all agree it's very, very light on story. The script is not that great, and I'm hoping they finally get to doing the sequel they've been talking about for a few years now. I know it's been actually probably even more than a few years, but let's hope for another one. But I hope a lot of people agree. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, my pick for best So Bad It's Good film. Now that brings me to my most WTF film, and if you have not seen this one, it needs to be experienced. Lair of the White Worm. I do not own this because it is so incredibly weird. It has a young Hugh Grant in it, believe it or not, but it's so trippy. That's why I call it so WTF. That's the main crux of why I picked it for this. A lot of left field things happening, a lot of it looking super trippy, with like actually like trippy looking scenes, including a scene where Hugh Grant is crucified like Jesus, while a bunch of nuns are basically ravaged by guys in plate armor. And in the meantime, while he's crucified on the cross, there's this giant white worm that's kind of like curling around and like it looks like trying to lick him. And it looks terrible. Like the worm itself looks awful, the design of it. So it's very laughable. It's very weird. There's also a very weird nightmare scene that Hugh Grant's character has in this, where he gets on an airplane and then there are basically like two stewardesses and there are people who are almost in a catatonic state and they're pouring drinks and pouring them in the catatonic people's mouths. And then one comes over to him and starts to like come on to him in a sexual manner. And then all of a sudden the two stewardesses start wrestling on the ground with each other. Then they go back to a shot of showing Hugh Grant's crotch during that, where he's holding a pen that he starts slowly turning up like he's getting a boner. It is weird. And then it goes from there too. Like there is so much weird stuff in this, including a sacrifice scene, an almost sacrifice scene where a woman who is like blue with fangs and naked puts on this giant like kind of like worm strap-on dildo that she's gonna do this woman with. It never gets to that point, but it's so weird. It is such a bizarre film. It is very WTF. I've only watched this film once, and I remember when I did watch it, I was just like, what the what the F? Like so many times during the film, I was like, what am I watching? What am I watching? What am I watching? This thing is insane. So that's why The Lair of the White Worm is my most WTF film. I mean, it's probably one of the most WTF films I've seen in my life, to be honest, for all the weirdness of it. So definitely check it out. Then going to Best Gore. Now, I'm a big fan, and people could probably tell from some things you see in the background in my video, of Hellraiser. So I have the 2-pack Blu-ray of Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2. So what I'm pointing out here, obviously, is Hellraiser 2, which came out in 1988, and the gore is excellent in this. I mean, super disturbing, super realistic, super gore-filled moment when the doctor takes the mental patient and puts him on the old mattress where I think it was Mary Woronow's character had died, and he starts just like he's seeing bugs all over himself, so he just starts cutting himself with the straight razor that the doctor gives him. It is so disturbing, it is so distressing, and it looks so real, and there's so much blood. Then how the character of, I forget what her name is, Julia like climbs out of there, it's just covered in blood, and we get the same look that Frank had in the first one, where it's all just like slimy, bloody muscle that we see. I mean, the gore in this is amazing, and even the gore having to do with just the Cenobites. Like when the doctor is made into a Cenobite, it's very disturbing, it's crazy. You see the construction of like all the things like going into him, like those kind of like weird pincher things that go in and inject like the blue blood into him. And then like the like brain surgery whirring piece of equipment that goes into his head and starts just like spinning, and it's like, ugh. Man, it is something. So best gore pick, Hellraiser 2 Hellbound. It's a wonderful film. If you've never seen Hellraiser 2 Hellbound or the first Hellraiser, shame on you. You got to get to that right now. I'm telling you, do it. So yeah, Hellraiser 2, my pick for best gore. Then that takes me to the most unique film. and I know Uncle Pete will be happy about this, and this is the film I suspect he has picked for his most amazing, and that is the original Child's Play. I haven't seen many of the Child's Play films. I've only seen 3 of them, and actually, oddly enough, it's the first one, and then Curse and Cult of Chucky, so I kind of accidentally skipped a lot. I will rectify that at some point, but Child's Play, super unique, obviously. Who would come up with the idea to have a serial killer's soul go into the body of a doll? Just for that, like, just that alone, it's super unique, it's weird. But then, on top of that, this serial killer's personality is, like, throwing out all these one-liners that are actually funny. So the film plays as actually scary and wacky and weird, but funny at the same time. And you even start thinking to yourself, like, how are people actually dying at the hands of this doll? Because it's small, but it makes it believable within the film. It is a super unique idea. I mean, nobody had seen that prior, unless you're talking about a film like Dolls, kind of. But we don't get that whole, like, serial killer's soul into the doll thing. That's the very unique part of it, in my opinion. So, very good film. Brad Dourif, amazing as Chucky. Always was, always will be. Just an amazing actor in general, honestly. He's my favorite character in the show Deadwood on HBO. So, just going to leave that there. Anyway, most unique film, Child's Play. And I know you're welcome, Uncle Pete. I know you'd be happy about that pick. Let's move on then to the most overrated category. Now, I know there will be people who don't agree with me on this one, but I see this film get a lot of love, and I see people talk about this film a good amount, and I just don't get the appeal. Pumpkinhead. I get that the creature design is awesome. I think, was it Stan Winston who created that creature? The creature looks amazing, but let me just tell you, there is not enough of the creature in this film. On top of that, the pacing is awful. I mean, and it's not even this was the 80s, pacing kind of was not that great in the 80s. Like, I understand that. It's bad for 80s pacing, in my opinion. Not a whole lot happens in the film. They do focus a lot. Like, it's a good concept. The creature is amazing. The whole idea of Lance Henriksen's character losing his son and then wanting to get revenge by basically going to this witch in the forest, and then she summons Pumpkinhead to kind of take all the people out who were involved with the kid's death. It's a good concept. It's just poorly executed, in my opinion. We needed more of the creature. We needed way better kills, because kills suck. And we needed the pacing to be so much better. That is why I picked Pumpkinhead as my most overrated film. Not a fan at all of that film. So, yep, Pumpkinhead. But I know people are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. Just let me know in the comments, respectfully, what do you disagree about, and that's fine. Anyway, then going to our final category here, most underrated. Now, this film has started to get a lot more love lately, but prior to it being shown on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, it was not getting much love at all, and I have enjoyed this film for quite some time. I enjoy all the films by Frank Henenlotter, so I have picked Brain Damage, and this one is dedicated to Rich Smith, my best friend. He fell in love with Brain Damage when he just saw it for the first time a few years ago and had been obsessed ever since. I even bought him a copy of this as well, because I was like, you talk about Brain Damage so much, you need to own it. But yeah, wonderful film. I mean, very weird. You could pick this for most WTF. You could pick it for most unique. Literally about a parasite that gives a guy hallucinogenic drugs and feeds on him that way. I mean, it's obviously a veiled look at drug addiction, and I actually did a review on it where I go much deeper into that. But there's some really crazy, weird things in this. But the film just works. It's really well shot. It's really well acted. It's super fun. And all the crazy weirdness just goes into being awesome. And the voicing of the creature, Elmer, or Aylmer, as it's actually said, is voiced by Zachary, who was a late-night horror host. And his voicing is just, it's mismatched for what the creature is, but it kind of also makes the film. Because it then makes you feel like this creature's not so much of a creature. It's actually a little more human. It's way more sophisticated than you would think it is. And persuasive. Let's be honest about that. But wonderful, wonderful, amazing, crazy, well-shot film. And that's why Brain Damage is my pick for most underrated film of 1988. So that's it. Hopefully people really enjoyed this one. We only have 1989 left, but Uncle Pete and I are looking to do more decades. So when I drop the video for 1989 and put the poll up for that one, I'm also going to put up a poll for what decade you want us to do next. And there will be on there 1960, the 60s, the 90s, the 2000s, or the 2010s. So vote for what you want next. That doesn't mean that we're just going to do that one and stop. We may keep going. I don't know. But tell us which one is a priority for you. Remember, that'll be next week. But once again, you've watched my video now. Go over to your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete's video, which is on his channel and is linked in my description. And yeah, then come back after you watch that. Go to my community tab, vote on whose picks you like the most or who you thought had the best justifications. And we'll see who comes out the winner. Uncle Pete's been killing it for the most part every year. I think I have at the moment, like I'm winning like 1 year. I think it was like 83 or something. But we leave the polls open. So if you haven't seen all these videos and you want to go back and vote, you can do that too. So they're just up and available. Also, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell button. Do the same for your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. We really do appreciate that because we're trying to grow our channels. We're trying to grow this nerdy horror community a lot because we want to interact with you more. And this series has been phenomenal for interacting with everyone because we can feel the excitement. People have very strong opinions about films that they want or that they would pick. And we've been giving each other excellent ideas about films that we haven't seen that we need to. So that's one of my favorite parts of this. I have added a lot of films to my list to watch, and I love it. But anyway, don't want this to go on any longer. Thank you very much for taking your time to watch this, and until next time, keep it brutal.